Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, presented by T.A. Forsberg and Wagoner Financial. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
Small business owners are highlighted on the show regularly, and most have found a path to sanity and success, and we discuss what they've learned and share their secrets. But today, we have a CEO who's published a book and subsequent community of sorts to share his learnings. Please welcome the owner and CEO of Michigan Creative, Mr. Brian Town. Welcome back to the show, Brian. It's been a couple of years.
It's been a while. I should come over here more often.
I would love
I
to.
love it. It's like my favorite thing. Studio's amazing. We've got great sponsors. I mean,
that's awesome.
We should just do this I could have a segment every show.
You know, we could.
Think about that.
You know, we might have sponsorship opportunities.
I'll invoice you.
Right. No, I think it goes the other way.
Oh. Yeah.
So Michigan Creative.
Yep.
I know that brand well. I think most people do. But tell us about Michigan Creative. What does your firm do? And while you discuss that, talk a little bit about how you got started.
Yeah, so I like to call ourselves a creative agency just because I hate the word marketing agency because no one likes marketing agencies, right? But I just like the idea of being a creative agency. But essentially, we're a full-service marketing company.
Okay.
But I really like that term creative because that's everything that we do. You know, even for me, where I'm not actually producing anything, like, you know, they don't let me do video, and thank God they don't let me do graphic design. I love to find creative solutions to problems, and marketing is just that. I mean, typically clients come to us and they'll say, yeah, we need a new website or we need a new brand, but it's an issue that they have that they need solved. Like, you know, we've been in a lot of manufacturing plants and facilities, $200 million, $50 million companies who have one marketing person on the team.
Right.
And they're by far the best in the business, super successful. They're not telling the right story time and time again, especially this year. That's been kind of the problem that we've been solving. And yeah, I started this 14 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long.
Wow. 2010?
Yeah, 2011.
11?
So,
yeah, right.
Almost 14
This
years.
is your 14th year.
Yeah. So in August. After quitting a paid job to start a company, which I'm not sure. Sometimes I wonder why I did that. But, I was a teacher for a long time, high school teacher, taught video and film for a long time. That was kind of my career path. And then just one day decided to do something different. And I think I was 39 at the time, 38, and started it in East Lansing at the Tick, which is new back then.
Yeah.
This whole idea of entrepreneurship and small business and incubators was all kind of about that time. Jeff Smith and Paul Jakes, those guys are still around today, but Jeff Smith was running the Tick at the time, and I knew him. I can't remember how, through another business. And my first call to him after I resigned on a Friday afternoon was to him. My first call was to him. I said, "Hey, I need a space." And that was it. That was our first office there in East Lansing.
Jeff Smith's going to be in about an hour.
Is he?
Yeah.
It's so funny because Sarah was in before this, and Jeff, it's like all of these people that are really connected to the ecosystem, like we call it.
Yeah.
I mean, those two right there, are in it. And it's just, that's one thing I really love about Lansing and Michigan too, but I really love about Lansing itself is that there is this ecosystem.
Right.
And I remember when we were doing the launch for Toscana, and our job was to, which is the restaurant here, our job was to get people who are connected in the community to Lansing, and they're like, we just got to get I'm like, this is not going to be any problem.
Right.
Because everyone is super passionate about this. And
yeah, you got about 100 usual suspects that are just tied in.
Yeah. And they were just, the right people to be there. And I've always liked that about our community, but I will always point to the ability to have the Tick. And someone like Jeff Smith. I mean, people will say that about Jeff. I mean, he was someone that knew back then that there was this important message that needed to get out, and it was we need to help grow small entrepreneurs and businesses so that they can then expand their business here in Lansing and hire people. And if you look at what we did, I mean, I was an employee of me.
Yep.
And now we have 16 full-time people, and the majority of them here live, work, and play in Lansing.
That's a great story, and you're right. And to make a community out of it, right? Instead of having all these startups working in their basements in a silo and feeling alone and not having any kind of cross-pollination with other people going through the same stuff, it's easier to kind of bring people together and learn one lesson.
And I look at the people that were in there at the time, Justin with Good Fruit was there, but it wasn't Good Fruit yet.
Okay.
It was Pear and...
Oh my gosh.
Good times and Pear something.
Yeah,
it was two guys, right, Justin?
Yep.
And Good Fruit was born there. There was a lot of other people that I can't off the top of my head, but there was just so much that was started there. Nicholas Creative, who ended up running out of there and then moving, and then a couple years later sold his company. And so just a lot of really good stories of people that kind of grew out of that tick then.
And Tom Stewart was
Tom Stewart. I'm going to forget names. Everybody's going to be like, oh man, you forgot me. I'm like, no. All those guys,
So like most entrepreneurs, your ascent was completely just, straight up line, right? Yeah. You started out and now you've grown into this, and there were no bumps or bruises on the way.
No,
right?
It's all bumps and bruises. I mean, most of my book that I wrote is just me whining about how hard it is. And that's all it is. So if somebody says it's just him complaining, you're right. Because that's all it is. No, it wasn't. I mean, there's still ups and downs. And I think, my wife and I, she's a small business owner too, and just new really over the last 3 years. And we talk about that a lot. We talk about how hard it is to be a business owner and the things that people don't understand and see. And I think it was a quote that I always remember is, it's a lonely place being the owner. Because, if you're worried about the business, you can't tell your staff.
Right, exactly.
I've done that.
Yep.
And that was a terrible mistake. And, sometimes you can't tell your friends because they just think you're rich because you're a small business owner. Right. They don't get it. They work. Right. They don't understand. And sometimes you don't want to tell your spouse. I mean, as close as Holly and I are. Yeah. And you don't want to admit it yourself, I think, because you start this and, even after 14 years, like if we shut down tomorrow and all of our clients decided to fire us tomorrow, that would be really hard for me to take. But, somebody said to me like, hey, 14 years, that's success. I mean, most people don't make it past the first 5 years.
Right.
And so it's hard to hear, it's hard to believe that, I think. But yeah, it's always been ups and downs. And a lot of it is me making mistakes and learning from those mistakes and trying not to do them again.
So now you've kind of cut to the chase. You've got a new book out, which I'm excited to hear more about. So The Lonely CEO.
It sounds so sad, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I think that's, in an iteration of my life, I did small business consulting after my corporate America stint. And I was trying to be that, that not lonely at the top. Right. I kind of fell backwards into that role, and this is not about me, but I just want to punctuate what you just said is, most of my role was kind of therapy and a safe space. And for a CEO to actually have a place, a neutral party to say, this is what's kicking my butt today, and these are decisions that are hard. And here's the path I'm thinking about going down. And I was just a safe, trusted place as a firewall to say, well, think about it this way, or I think you're on the right path, and just kind of validation. And there was value in that to 100%. These small business owners, and I don't know if this is exactly what's covered in your book. I want to explore that more, but do you have some sort of like a top 10 or maybe the top 3, epiphanies that you had? You've bumped and bruised your way over 14 years, but your message to the audience of this book, are there a handful of things that kind of are the learning things that you might want to help someone through? Yeah.
And that's stuff that I still, it's one of those things where you're like, you tell your kids all these things to do, but don't do what I say.
Right.
But, and just a side note too, that if you look up the book, The Lonely CEO, there is another book called The Lonely CEO, but it's a hot and steamy romance novel. And that is not, I wish I would have wrote that one, but that is not this one.
It probably pays a little better.
Probably does. I'm sure it does. But yeah, I think a couple things, the one that I always tell my coaching clients and a lot of my staff too, is like, I think the biggest thing is the simple belief in yourself that you are the one to do it. Because there's this imposter syndrome that we all have. Right. And I talk a lot about imposter syndrome in the book, but where I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of us have that imposter syndrome. I know my wife has it, but she's super successful. And I think it's that thing that drives us to continue to sort of make sure that we're going to up ourselves and what we feel, So I think that's one, is that simple belief in yourself. And, and I also think the other piece that we talk a lot about is sales.
Okay.
And I think sales and marketing, I'm a marketing company, but I have to do sales and marketing for my own company. And I think we've seen businesses that have not been successful, med spas that we've talked to when Holly started her company. And the reason why most companies fail is because they don't have a focus on sales and marketing. And so I think, that simple belief in yourself, have to be doing laser-like focused on sales all the time. And I think, the other thing is the process after that. And so as a creative person, which a lot of business owners are, like, I'm not super organized. I don't like process. Like, process to me is like, but my staff and my clients need it.
Right.
And so that process that we've worked on over and over and over again at Michigan Creative, I think we're in a really good spot now, because at a time, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it just seems like we were always working on fixing our process. And, you know, and I think you're always going to do that.
Yep.
But those three things I think are super important. And, you know, I talk about morning routines, I talk about scheduling, I talk about all these different things that you can do just to keep yourself healthy. And because it's like running a marathon. Like, you have to be healthy. You have to see a therapist, maybe. Yep. You have to meditate. You have to, all these things that you probably would have never thought of.
Yep.
Because you have to be running like a fine-tuned machine to make it through this marathon that is small business.
Sharpen the saw.
Yeah.
Lots of wisdom out there if you're looking for it. But a lot of small business owners are too busy hustling to sharpen the saw. So well,
and that's the thing I wanted to write. You know, I kind of make fun of the gurus in the book, because for me, I was reading a ton of books. You know, I read a ton of books, and it was always like, yeah, you only need to work a couple hours a day and then do an ice bath in the morning and get up at 4:30 and then go work remote and wherever. And, and it's like, listen, man, you know, I remember thinking how to write that chapter, and it was because of what happened the night before. It was like, our German Shepherd was 10 years old and he couldn't hold it in anymore because he can't use his back legs, and he was pooping on the floor. We forgot something for Cora's school. Something else was going on at work. This was happening. The cat was throwing up, and I was like, this is life.
Right.
Like, this is really what it is. Like, yes, would I love to be able to do all those things? But, you know, most small business owners are family men and women, and they have life to also deal with when they're trying to then operate a business.
Well, it seems like just the idea of trying to write a book and then actually doing it all the way until I'm actually holding a book in my hand is a testament to your ability to find bandwidth to not only work on your business and manage your family.
Yeah.
Because someone would say the 500 hours that you put into your book could have been better served
probably
being a better dad, husband, and business owner and boss.
Yeah.
But you put it all together, and you're not divorced, and your kids still like you, and your company's doing okay.
I think the kids like me all right. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that, and I did this to myself. And so I think you're right, because at the time I was writing the book, trying to get a course going, had the business, trying to help Holly's business. And one of my business coaches at the time said, stop everything. You're doing too much. It's not,
right.
You know, and of course I didn't listen, and, you know, kind of was really stressed out during that period. But now that it's done, I'm really glad that it is done. And part of the thing that I talk about in there, which I do pretty good at, but it's that time blocking of your calendar to get real work done. And because your calendar will run you if you let it. And so what I've done over the course of the last couple of years is I put 3 or 4 blocks on the calendar that are just blocked off for me to get things done. And so if I'm worried about all the stuff that I got to have done, I kind of look at my list and I put it on a time block, and I know I can forget about it until 2:30.
Right.
And so for me, I think you can get everything done. I think there is a space where you can do everything that you want to do. If you really schedule and book your time.
Right. Well, talk about scheduling and booking time. Are you ready to make smart financial decisions? Wagoner Financial offers a proven process for financial transformation, empowering individuals at all stages, whether you're starting out, nearing retirement, or anywhere in between. Stop feeling unsure about your financial path. Wagoner Financial can help you undergo a financial transformation. Schedule a consultation today to discuss your individual needs and discover how Wagoner Financial can guide you by visiting wagoner-financial.com or call 517-853-3367. You will not be disappointed. So with all that being said, and I know we're here to talk a little bit more about the content of your book.
Yeah.
But what are there a handful of books that you would kind of credit, you know, as kind of like, these books really helped me sharpen my focus in these areas and help me kind of stabilize? Yeah,
you know, the one that really kind of got me to the point where I think I could even do something like that, right, is The War of Art.
Okay.
And not The Art of War.
Right.
That's a good one too.
I read a post by you. Yeah. Okay.
So, you know, the story of that, The War of Art, it's by Stephen Pressfield. Never heard of it. Right. And so, like most consumers, you know, Instagram is very good at targeting me because I'm a book nerd and I'm a business owner. And it came across this perfect ad that was by Stephen Pressfield. It was a box set of his books or whatever. And it came with like cards and some art and a like a notebook or something. I'm like, oh my God, I got to have that. I don't know who Stephen Pressfield is, but so I get this package in the mail, kind of forgot about it. And it was signed, with Sharpie. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, and my daughter's like, you're such a dork. and I opened it and at that time I was struggling, man. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm burnt out. It's not going like I want it to do. I want to do something different. And I got this book and opened it up, and in that book there was this picture of a guy laying in bed. It was like a hand-drawn artist that he had hired to do it. It's awesome artwork, and it was like this creature. This is going to sound really weird, but it was like this creature over top of him in bed, and it says, and then the caption was, "What time does resistance greet you?" And I was like, "Well, first thing in the morning." And I was sitting there with my headphones on doing my routine, and Holly was doing hers, and I walked out there and I was looking at her, and she's like, "What are you doing, weirdo?" And I said, I figured it out. I kind of figured out what's had me for so long is this resistance to do what I know I can do, and to find the things that, to put in place the things that I know I need to do to be successful, to continue to grow and all that. And from that moment, like, it kind of spawned, I already had the idea for the book, but then it kind of forced me to sit down and do it. We changed a lot of things at the company. So for me, that idea, and what he talks about as resistance, is basically what all artists and creative people run into is, the hardest part of writing a book, he says, is not writing the book. It's sitting down to write the book.
Okay.
And I was like, he's right. Because writing a book itself is not that hard. Like, if you can't write that well, you can get an editor. If you can plan out chapters. But it's not the actual physical of writing the book. It's just making that conscious effort to actually sit down and do it.
Okay.
And that can apply to everything. It's like everything seems impossible and hard and difficult, but it's really just sitting down to do the work. And that for me kind of was kind of the message that I needed to hear at the time.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So let's say we fast forward a little bit and I have read your book, which I have not yet.
Yes. Well, you have a signed copy now.
I appreciate that.
So you can retire.
So I would never sell this.
No. Wow.
It's not about value.
Yeah.
It's about the value, not the value.
Yeah, sure.
What do you hope the readers get out of this? Are there like a handful of nuggets of wisdom that you think should be impactful to people that are in this space?
Yeah, I think the number one thing, if someone reads it and the rest of it's not helpful to them, that they once again believe in themselves, that they are the right person to do it. And that would be worth all the effort. I don't care if we make any money, probably won't on the book, right? The idea is, to build a funnel, those kind of things, but it's just for me just to have it done. But, I was coaching a couple clients and one of them, just a really intelligent woman, and she runs this beautiful, it's like a smoothie shop and bowl shop. And I'm in there talking to her and coaching her, and she's like, I just don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I just don't feel like I have anything together, and it's just a mess. And I don't know if this is going to work. And I don't think why am I even doing this? I'm the wrong person. I go, hold on a minute. Look around you. You built all of this. Like, all of this you built. Like, no one does this.
Right.
Like, we as entrepreneurs, we think everybody can do what we do because that's who we hang out with. I mean, we hang out and we watch other business owners. We read super successful business blogs and podcasts and all that crap. So we just assume everyone can do it. When in fact, no one can.
Right.
I mean, it's a very small percentage of people that, that make it. And in the E-Myth, he talks about this, right? He says, in the first 5 years, 90% of the businesses that start fail. And I made it to 5 years. I was like, sweet.
Right.
And then the next line out of his mouth is, and then after that, in the next 5 years, 90% of those businesses fail. And I'm like, come on, give me a break, man. But that's it. I think that it's possible. And if they get a couple tips about how to make their schedule better, or maybe to do some marketing for their, there's a little bit of that in there. But to me, whether they want to start a business or not, I think that belief in themselves that they can do whatever they set their mind out to. And I know that sounds cheesy, but gosh, even as adults, we have a hard time with that.
I mentioned my consultancy, and what really resonated with me is exactly what you were saying is, no matter how successful the brand is or the facility, the small business owner, usually when you peek behind the curtain and really look eyeball to eyeball with the owner, no matter how powerful the brand is and all the perceived success, there's usually fear.
Yeah.
And just like, I'm not doing enough and all that stuff. And it really resonated with me and made me reflect back on my corporate America days. And I think regardless of what type of work you do, if you're any good, there might be 15 things that you need to be really good at, and you're probably naturally good at 12.
Sure.
And you struggle with 3. But where do you spend 90% of your time perseverating over is the 3 that you stink at. And whether that's a boss in corporate America just saying, hey, this sucks and that's no good. And if you don't figure these things out, you're going to be in trouble or you're not going to get promoted until it's like, but we never really spend much time reinforcing the 12 things that you're kicking ass at, which is really probably what got you there in the first place. And so it sounds like the smoothie bowl lady, it has those 12 things nailed. But just consistently gets in her head about the 3 things that she feels vulnerable over.
Yeah. And I tell that to my staff a lot, and that's a great story because, I'd like to tell you at Michigan Creative, we've never been, lost clients before. We've never screwed things up.
Or missed an RFP.
Not true.
100% wins.
Happens all the time. Not all the time, but it happens. And, that's kind of when we have a tough client or we have a tough situation like that where they're not happy, like it's really hard for the project manager who managed that or the staff or whoever as a company, to handle that. And it's hard for me. And then, so what I have to do as a leader is I can't show that. Right.
Yep.
And so for me, I try to get them, and this is good advice for myself is, hey, I want you to look at the other 95% of the clients who've been with us for 12 years, 14 years, who, Avalon Healing, who we made a huge difference and changed lives of countless people across the country by building that brand. Those are the kind of things that I want you to remember when something bad happens, because for the most part, the work that you do that's really great and all the things, you're not going to hear a whole lot about that. You're only going to hear about the problem child and the problem client and whatever. And that's just not, it's not going to sit well with you. And so for me, I have to do that too. I have to sit there and go, look at what you've done, look what you've built, and take a moment, a second, whatever, to just go, all right, there are a lot of great things, and now I need to dig back in.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So encouraging people that they're the right people to do it. What else am I going to find in this great book?
Yeah, I think there's a whole list of things that you need to do as a small business. We talk a lot about sales. Like
Keep the funnel full. Right. Yeah.
Always. Like you can have great core values, and I talk about core values and that.
That's right.
I'm the core values king.
Yes,
I love
you
core
are.
values.
I remember the first time I met you.
Yeah.
You had not the mantra, motto. What's
the manifesto?
The manifesto.
Yeah, we still have it. Yeah. And so that was something that we dug into and we stayed with, and our core values have always been the same. And so I talk a lot about core values. I think they're a super important part, and we write them for clients and they use them for rating, reviewing, for sales, for everything. So to me, that it's how you build your core values is in there, and then how to get real work done. But again, going back to sales, you can have the best core values in the world. And this is a mistake that I made early on, is you could have the best team, the best core values. If you don't have sales, doesn't matter.
Right.
None of it
secret is not a good business strategy.
And that's the hardest thing, I think, for me as a CEO, because I'm the top salesperson in our company. We're just that size. I don't have a sales force.
Right.
I have a team of salespeople. We've tried it. But I'm the number one, if I could leave the business tomorrow, if it wasn't for that.
Right.
Because
so the production and the production fulfilling the promise of the sale that you made.
Yeah. They don't let me
keep going.
They don't let me. They don't want me to do any of that, because they're like, oh man, who's project managing? They're Brian. They're like, oh great. But yeah, that's the thing, that sales and marketing piece. Like that's why businesses die, is they don't, we see a lot of these restaurants closing. We see a lot of, and that's not the only reason, right? Because they're having a hard time getting staff and things like that too. But, if you look at why did a business fail, it's probably cash flow, which is related to sales. And so that has to be your superpower. And eventually you have to find a way to make that not your superpower if you ever want to get out.
Got it. Well, I want to pause for a second and thank one of my good friends. We all need a place to call home. Chris Silker of Keller Williams Advantage and Team offers the expertise that you're looking for. He has helped clients navigate the complicated world of real estate in mid-Michigan for over 10 years, providing the best information possible at the right time to empower the best decisions. Whether you're a first-time home buyer looking for a local expert to guide you from point A to point B, searching for an income property in the competitive Lansing market, right-sizing your life, or searching for your dream home, Chris Silker and the Advantage and Team is the name to trust in Greater Lansing real estate. Visit advantageinteam.kw.com or call Chris directly at 517-242-9251 today to find the home of your dreams. So you've talked a couple of times about coaching clients. What's the difference between coaching a client or having a client that you coach and selling your services at Michigan Creative? Are they separate entities, or do they kind of go hand in glove?
Yeah. And so a little bit of both. Like, I would love to continue to build just my private coaching, which is fun for me. Like, I like it. It's super low ticket. It's just fun. I love coaching entrepreneurs. I need to probably move it into some sort of group coaching, because scaling the individual coaching is going to be hard.
Right.
Because I also have a company to run.
Yep.
I'm not smart. Like, I do too many things. And
you're probably telling the same story over and over again, teaching the same lessons, regardless of industry.
I might start doing that. Like, I did the coaching for a little bit and it was really hard to keep up with. And so I've got a couple still, but the piece that I think works really well, that works for both, is that sort of fractional marketing director.
Right. Yep.
And so to me, that's still, it's kind of coaching, but not really. You're sort of stepping in as their part-time marketing director to help guide their direction and their marketing. And the nice thing about that is that I can sit in that seat, and in addition to those services of just, the structure of their marketing and ideas, is that we also have the agency.
Yep.
And so, for a company to hire a full-time CMO, if they wanted to hire a full-time CMO, they would still have to have an agency, because he or she probably can't build websites. Maybe probably can't do design or video. So not only are you going to have to hire that full-time person, they're going to have to hire an agency. So for us, it's like this fractional piece works out really well. It's hard to scale because it's me, until we can get someone trained up that can do that, but I like that a lot, just because it's the ability for them to know, like, and trust me.
Yep.
And then, I also own the agency. So, that must be a really easy, smooth transition to do both.
Makes a lot of sense.
So that's kind of the direction that we've been going with the fractional piece. I think we used to do it in a way that Michigan Creative was the fractional, but that model didn't work very well. So we switched it to where now it's me. I'm separate. If they need agency work, we have an agency. If we don't do the type of thing that they need, we have resources to find someone who does.
Right. So you got a lot going on.
Jesus, yeah. I just need to slim it down, I think.
Yeah. What, have you read the book Essentialism?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's one of my favorites. It really helped me as I left corporate America and exploded on the serial entrepreneur scene. That was my leveling agent.
Yeah, that with that book, and then Atomic Habits too, is something that I just need to do better, because it's like, I tell all this great advice in the book, and then I try to remember. It's like core values. Like, sometimes you don't follow your core values as a leader, and I've done that, and I've said, hey, look, this was not showing leadership as one of our core values. This is really poor leadership, and this is how I'm make sure this doesn't happen again.
Right.
And so I think the other big piece is really staying on schedule with yourself and making sure that you're not doing too much and you're focusing on the right things. I'm not great at that, but I'm better.
Yep. Good for you. So The Lonely CEO, look for it in the business book section, not the saucy romance book section.
Yeah. I've read the other one too. It's pretty good. The CEO comes in and she looks at him. Yeah, it's just like that. It's
got
great.
it. Takes off the tie.
Oh, that's awesome.
So where can people find this?
Yeah, so at Amazon, thelonelyceo.com has all the links to Amazon. You can just search The Lonely CEO on Amazon and grab the Kindle or grab the paperback, and it'll come out.
And how can people find Michigan Reimagine? That's
right
my
here.
podcast.
We're right here, man.
Michigan Creative.
Yeah, michigancreative.com. And so all the information that you'll need is there, work, case studies, all that. And we're right here in Old Town. So if you guys ever need anything, come by and see us.
Right on. And then finally, is the coaching and fractional CMO type work under the Michigan Reimagine? Like, is that the best place to find you through Michigan Creative?
Yeah, probably. You can also go to bryantown.io. That has all the links to the agency. So bryantown.io has a link to the book, to the agency, to some presentations. You can book the calendar. So that's a really good place to go.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you being here. It's been a long time since we've chatted, but with owner, CEO of Michigan Creative, also a recent author of The Lonely CEO. and just doing great things, keeping that ecosystem for small business and entrepreneurship alive. Thanks for joining me today, Brian.
Chris, super awesome. Thank you so much.
And I'd love to give a final shout out to all my loyal sponsors, Forsberg Real Estate, Wagoner Financial, Triterra Environmental, Good Marketing, Keller Williams Advantage and Team, Michigan Rise, and the attorneys at Foster Swift. If you just found the show as a one-off, I remind you to follow and subscribe to Michigan Reimagine on YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts. Chris Buck from Michigan Reimagine signing off.